January 2025, and the unthinkable is happening. Windows 10, an operating system that officially died 15 months ago, is growing in market share, not declining, growing. While Windows 11, Microsoft's supposedly superior replacement, is hemorrhaging users at an accelerating rate. February 14th, 2025, Valentine's Day. The world celebrates love. Microsoft discovers everyone hates them. YouGov releases a survey, 50,000 respondents across 12 countries. One simple question: how satisfied are you with Windows 11? The results detonate across the tech industry like a nuclear bomb. 68% dissatisfied or very dissatisfied. Only 19% satisfied. The rest neutral or don't care. That's a 3.6 to 1 ratio of hatred to approval. Let that sink in. For every person who likes Windows 11, nearly 4 people hate it. But numbers don't capture the visceral intensity of the rejection. This isn't mild disappointment. This is fury. This is betrayal. This is millions of people feeling personally insulted by software they paid for on hardware they own. For context, let's compare this to history's most hated Windows releases. Windows Vista at its absolute worst hit 58% dissatisfaction. Windows ME, the legendary disaster that crashed constantly and broke everything, reached 61% dissatisfaction. Windows 8, with its tablet interface forced onto desktop users, topped out at 64% dissatisfaction. Windows 11 just blew past all of them, 68% dissatisfied. Windows 11 is officially the most hated Windows release in history, more despised than Vista, more reviled than ME, more rejected than Windows 8. Microsoft spent 4 years and billions of dollars creating the single most unpopular operating system they've ever shipped. And the hatred isn't just numbers in a survey, it's everywhere. Reddit's R Windows has become a 24/7 hate forum with posts getting thousands of upvotes titled "Windows 11 is malware," "Microsoft doesn't respect users anymore," and "How to permanently block Windows 11 upgrade." Twitter is flooded with users posting screenshots of their Linux installations with captions like, "Finally free from Microsoft's prison." YouTube is filled with videos getting millions of views documenting every Windows 11 failure, every privacy invasion, every forced feature, every performance problem. Tech forums worldwide are exploding with migration guides: how to switch from Windows to Linux, how to downgrade from Windows 11 to Windows 10, how to keep Windows 10 running past end of life. The collective anger is so intense, so widespread, so deeply personal that it's creating a cultural moment. Using Windows 11 is becoming embarrassing. And somewhere in Seattle, in a private office overlooking Lake Washington, Bill Gates reads the survey results. The man who built Microsoft, the man who created Windows, the man who made personal computing accessible to billions of people. He's watching his life's work collapse. Windows, the platform that defined his legacy, has become the most despised software on Earth. And according to 3 people close to him who spoke to Bloomberg on condition of anonymity, he's devastated. Not angry. Devastated. Because this wasn't inevitable. This wasn't market forces beyond Microsoft's control. This wasn't technological disruption they couldn't predict. This was choice. Strategic decisions made by executives who should have known better, destroying something that took 40 years to build in just 4 years of arrogance, greed, and contempt for users. Gates knows what's coming. He's seen this pattern before. Dominant platforms that lose user trust don't recover. They collapse. And Windows is collapsing. The golden age that Microsoft destroyed. Rewind to October 29th, 2015. Windows 10 launches. The reception is euphoric. Tech media calls it Microsoft's redemption after the Windows 8 disaster. Users celebrate the return of the Start menu. The free upgrade from Windows 7 and Windows 8.1 creates massive goodwill. Reviews are overwhelmingly positive. PC World gives it 4.5 out of 5 stars. The Verge calls it a return to form. Ars Technica praises the performance improvements and feature additions. Microsoft seems to have learned. They listened to users. They fixed what was broken. They delivered an operating system people actually wanted to use. Windows 10 approval ratings hit 71% in the first year. 71%. Users were happy. Businesses were deploying it eagerly. The Windows brand recovered from the Windows 8 catastrophe. Consumer confidence restored. Microsoft's reputation rebuilt. For 5 years, Windows 10 thrived. Updates came regularly, adding features users wanted. Performance stayed good, sometimes improving with updates. The interface felt stable, mature, trustworthy. Battery life got better. Security improved without being intrusive. The Windows subsystem for Linux made developers happy. Gaming performance was excellent. Everything worked. By July 2020, Windows 10 was installed on over 1 billion devices worldwide. The platform was healthy. Users were content. Businesses were satisfied. Microsoft's reputation was restored. They'd proven they could still build operating systems people loved. The Windows franchise seemed secure for another decade. Then, something changed. Inside Microsoft's Redmond headquarters, a fundamental shift occurred. Satya Nadella had been CEO since February 2014. His strategy was cloud first, mobile first, but mobile died. Windows Phone was dead by 2017, killed by iOS and Android. Microsoft's mobile dreams were over. So the strategy evolved to cloud first, AI first, and Windows became a vehicle for that strategy, not a product to serve users, a tool to drive cloud subscription revenue and justify AI investments. The priority changed from make Windows better for users to make Windows generate more recurring revenue for Microsoft. Internal Microsoft meetings, executives discussing Windows strategy. Multiple sources who attended these meetings described the conversations to The Verge. The focus was monetization, how to extract more value from Windows users, subscription models for the OS itself, ads integrated into File Explorer and Start menu, forced cloud integration through OneDrive, mandatory Microsoft accounts to drive Microsoft 365 adoption, AI features to justify the $13 billion OpenAI investment, telemetry data collection to feed machine learning models, every discussion about making money, nobody discussing making Windows better, nobody asking what users want, nobody considering user experience as a priority. One former Windows team member who left Microsoft in 2023 told Bloomberg, around 2020, the culture changed. We stopped being the Windows team. We became the Windows monetization team. Every feature we built had to tie to revenue somehow. If it didn't drive subscriptions, cloud adoption, or data collection, it got cut from the roadmap. User experience became secondary to business objectives. I left because I couldn't participate in that anymore. That cultural shift destroyed Windows, because when you stop serving users and start extracting from them, they notice, they resist, they leave, and that's exactly what's happening now. The launch that started the collapse, October 5th, 2021. Windows 11 officially launches. The marketing is slick. Glossy videos showing rounded corners, a centered taskbar, smooth animations. The Windows you love, reimagined, Microsoft promises. The tech world watches cautiously. Remember Windows 8? That was supposed to be revolutionary, too. It was a disaster. Could Microsoft repeat that mistake? Spoiler alert, yes, but worse. Within hours of release, the complaints flood social media. The new Start menu is terrible. Can't pin as many apps as before. The recommended section shows recent documents nobody asked to see, wasting valuable screen space. The taskbar is crippled. Can't move it to the sides or top of the screen anymore. Must stay at bottom. Users who've had their taskbar on the left side for 20 years? Too bad. Microsoft removed that option. The right-click context menu is broken, takes 2 clicks to access common options. Show More Options menu hides basic functionality everyone uses. File Explorer got ads, actual advertisements for OneDrive in the file management tool. People are seeing ads in software they paid for on hardware they own. But those are just interface annoyances, frustrating but superficial. The real problems run deeper, much deeper, the hardware requirements that locked out millions. This conversation happens in computer repair shops worldwide, millions of times. Customer brings in their computer. It's a 2019 Dell XPS with an Intel i7-9700K processor, 32GB RAM, RTX 2080 graphics card, runs perfectly. Fast, stable, zero problems. Customer asks, can I upgrade to Windows 11? Technician checks system requirements. No TPM 2.0 chip. Windows 11 won't install. Customer. But my computer is only 5 years old and runs everything perfectly. Technician. Microsoft requires TPM 2.0. Your motherboard doesn't have it. You'd need to buy a new computer. Customer. Buy a new $2,000 computer to run an operating system update? For what? My computer works fine. Technician. That's what Microsoft says. New computer or stay on Windows 10, which loses support in October 2025. Customer. This is insane. Technician. Yeah, everyone's saying that. That interaction plays out millions of times. Perfectly good computers declared obsolete. Not because they're broken, not because they lack power, because Microsoft decided to require hardware most computers don't have. The numbers are staggering. Microsoft's own internal data, leaked to The Verge in September 2024, showed that 52% of Windows 10 computers couldn't meet Windows 11 requirements. 52%. That's not a small segment. That's half the user base. Half of all Windows 10 users got told their computers are too old for Windows 11, even though those computers run Windows 10 perfectly fine. Microsoft's solution? Spend $1,500 to $3,000 on new hardware, or accept security risks when Windows 10 support ends. No third option. Buy new stuff, or take your chances with malware. Jennifer Patel runs a small accounting firm in Columbus, Ohio. 12 employees. She bought Dell Optiplex workstations in 2019 for the entire office. Cost $24,000 for everything. Those computers are fast. They run QuickBooks, Excel, email, everything her business needs with zero problems. Perfect performance. But they don't have TPM 2.0 chips because those weren't standard in 2019. Microsoft says they can't run Windows 11. So now she faces an impossible choice. Spend another $24,000 on new computers that will do the exact same work her current computers already do perfectly, or keep running Windows 10 with no security updates after October 2025, exposing her business to cyber threats and potentially violating compliance requirements for handling financial data. She chose option 3, switching to Linux, Ubuntu LTS for the entire office. Cost, $0 for the operating system, $3,500 for IT consultant time to migrate and train staff. Total cost, $3,500 versus $24,000 for new Windows machines. Her accountant spent 3 weeks learning Linux. Now they're fully migrated. Everything works. QuickBooks runs through Wine compatibility layer. LibreOffice handles all documents. Email works perfectly. File sharing works. Printers work. And the best part? No forced updates interrupting work, no ads, no AI features they didn't want, no Microsoft account requirements, no telemetry uploading their client data. The computers are theirs again, not Microsoft's data collection endpoints. Microsoft lost a $24,000 hardware sale and a longtime Windows customer because they got greedy with hardware requirements. And Jennifer's not unique. This is happening everywhere. The performance disaster that gamers can't ignore. Kevin Torres is a competitive Counter-Strike player in Sao Paulo, Brazil. He plays semi-professionally, competing in South American tournaments with prize pools. Frame rates are his livelihood. In competitive first-person shooters, the difference between 300 and 350 frames per second matters. It's the difference between your shot registering first or dying. He built a beast of a gaming PC in 2023. AMD Ryzen 7 7800X3D processor, RTX 4080 graphics card, 32GB DDR5 RAM, NVMe SSD, top-tier components. He was getting 340 frames per second consistently in Counter-Strike 2 on Windows 10. Smooth, responsive, perfect. Then he made a mistake. He upgraded to Windows 11 in September 2024. Frame rates immediately dropped to 285 frames per second. That's 55 frames per second lost. A 16% performance hit from just changing the operating system, same hardware, same graphics settings, same game version. Only variable, Windows 11. In competitive gaming, that's catastrophic. That's the difference between reaction times that win rounds versus dying repeatedly. He checked Task Manager to diagnose the problem. Windows 11 was using 8.3% CPU at idle. Windows 10 used 2.1% CPU at idle. 4 times more CPU usage doing nothing. Background processes eating resources. Copilot service running even though he never used it. Telemetry uploading data constantly. Windows Defender running scans during gameplay. OneDrive syncing in the background. All of these services stealing CPU cycles that should go to the game. He spent 3 days trying to optimize Windows 11. Disabled Copilot through group policy. Disabled telemetry through registry edits. Disabled Windows search indexing. Disabled OneDrive. Disabled every unnecessary service he could find, got frame rates back up to 310 frames per second, still 9% worse than Windows 10, and here's the kicker. The next Windows 11 update re-enabled half the services he disabled. He had to disable them again. Updates kept undoing his optimizations. He was fighting his own operating system, wasting hours every month just to keep it from sabotaging his performance. He gave up, downgraded back to Windows 10. Frame rates immediately returned to 340 frames per second. Stable, consistent, no background nonsense. He realized Windows 11 had been handicapping him, making him less competitive, costing him tournament placements. For what? For AI features he never asked for rounded corners he doesn't care about. For telemetry that benefits Microsoft, not him, he told his team. They all downgraded, then they told their friends in other teams. The exodus spread through the Brazilian competitive gaming scene like wildfire. And it's not just Brazil. PC gaming forums worldwide are filled with performance complaints. Reddit's RPC Gaming has daily posts showing Windows 10 versus Windows 11 benchmarks. Every benchmark shows Windows 11 slower. Tom's Hardware ran comprehensive testing in November 2024. They tested 15 popular games on identical hardware with Windows 10 and Windows 11. The results were devastating for Microsoft. Average frame rates 7.3% lower on Windows 11. CPU-bound games 9.8% slower. GPU-bound games 4.1% slower. Frame time consistency 18.4% worse, meaning more stuttering. CPU usage at idle 287% higher. RAM usage at idle 34% higher. Boot times 23.6% slower. Application launch times 19.2% slower. Windows 11 is objectively, measurably slower at everything. Gaming performance worse, productivity worse, system responsiveness worse, and gamers notice frame rates. They benchmark obsessively. They compare performance constantly. You can't gaslight gamers about performance because they measure it. The data is undeniable. Windows 11 is slower than Windows 10, and gamers are leaving because of it. The user revolt that Microsoft can't suppress. March 2025, YouTube tech channels explode with anti-Windows 11 content. Linus Tech Tips posts, "Why we're done recommending Windows 11," gets 8.4 million views in 3 days. Comment section is unanimous agreement. Jay's 2 cents posts, "Windows 11 performance is unacceptable, back to Windows 10," gets 4.7 million views. Gamers Nexus posts, "Windows 11 versus Windows 10, the benchmarks Microsoft doesn't want you to see," gets 6.2 million views. Hardware Unboxed, Paul's Hardware, Bitwit, every major tech YouTuber making similar videos. Documenting Windows 11 failures, showing performance regressions, recommending alternatives, telling millions of viewers to avoid Windows 11 or downgrade if they already upgraded. The collective message is devastating. Windows 11 is worse than Windows 10 in every meaningful way. Microsoft can't suppress this, can't buy their way out, can't PR spin it. The evidence is too overwhelming. The testing is too thorough. The community consensus is too strong. Windows 11 is bad and everyone knows it. Twitter trends tell the story. Windows 10 trends weekly with users celebrating staying on the old OS. Windows 11 sucks trended 14 times in Q1 2025. Linux migration trends monthly with users sharing their Switch stories. Delete Windows spiked to number 3 globally when the subscription rumors leaked. The cultural momentum has completely shifted against Microsoft. Reddit communities dedicated to leaving Windows are exploding. Our Linux questions grew from 340,000 subscribers in January 2024 to 1.2 million in March 2025. Our macOS grew from 580,000 to 1.4 million. Our Windows help, ironically, is mostly people asking how to block Windows 11 upgrades or how to downgrade. The community backlash is so severe that even Microsoft's own moderators on official forums can't contain it. Threads about Windows 11 problems get thousands of replies before moderators can even address them, and Microsoft's responses are tone deaf. Official statements keep saying Windows 11 is the best Windows ever, while users scream about performance problems. Blog posts keep promoting Copilot features while users beg for ways to uninstall it. Social media teams keep posting about new features while replies are universally negative. Microsoft is completely disconnected from user sentiment, living in a corporate bubble where metrics look good because they're measuring the wrong things. The enterprise exodus that destroys the business model, but consumer hatred is manageable. Microsoft can survive consumer backlash if enterprises stay loyal, except enterprises aren't staying loyal. They're leaving too, and that's the existential threat. April 15th, 2025, Goldman Sachs announces they're deploying 73,000 MacBook Pros to replace their Windows fleet. That's not a pilot program, that's full replacement, complete platform migration. Goldman Sachs, one of the world's largest financial institutions, abandoning Windows after 30 years. The announcement shocks Wall Street. If Goldman Sachs is leaving Windows, nobody is safe. The press release explains why. After comprehensive evaluation, we determined that macOS provides superior security, better performance, lower total cost of ownership, and higher user satisfaction compared to Windows 11. The migration will complete by Q2 2026. Translation? Windows 11 is so bad we're willing to endure the massive cost and disruption of migrating 73,000 users just to escape it. Within 48 hours, JP Morgan announces they're piloting Linux desktop deployments for 45,000 workstations. Bank of America confirms they migrated 12,000 users to Chrome OS in Q4 2024. Citigroup says they're evaluating Macs for 28,000 employees. Morgan Stanley quietly deploys 15,000 Linux workstations for their trading floor. This isn't just one bank, this is the entire financial sector questioning their Windows dependency. And finance is just the beginning. Healthcare systems are migrating away from Windows 11 because Copilot and Recall create HIPAA compliance nightmares. You can't have an operating system taking screenshots of patient records and storing them in a database that could be compromised. That's a direct HIPAA violation. Mayo Clinic announced they're blocking Windows 11 deployment across all facilities. Cleveland Clinic is evaluating Linux. Johns Hopkins is testing Macs for administrative staff. Legal firms are leaving Windows because Recall creates discoverable records of privileged attorney-client communications. If your OS is screenshotting everything, those screenshots are subject to discovery and litigation. That violates professional obligations. Major law firms like Latham & Watkins, Skadden, and Baker McKenzie have all issued internal guidance blocking Windows 11 deployment pending resolution of the Recall privacy issues. Manufacturing companies are leaving because Windows 11's forced updates interrupt production systems. Automotive suppliers can't have assembly line computers rebooting for Windows updates during shifts. Government agencies are leaving because Windows 11's data collection creates classified information spillage risks. The Department of Defense issued guidance in February 2025 restricting Windows 11 deployment on classified networks until Microsoft addresses data exfiltration concerns. Michael Richardson is the CTO of a Fortune 500 manufacturing company with 87,000 employees across 34 countries. They deployed Windows 11 to 23,000 workstations in April 2024 as part of their standard hardware refresh cycle. By September 2024, he was getting daily reports from IT departments worldwide. Productivity down, application compatibility issues, users complaining constantly about interface changes, forced Copilot features interrupting workflows, mandatory Microsoft account integration breaking their domain authentication systems. He commissioned an analysis. The Windows 11 deployment cost them $67 million in lost productivity during the transition, $67 million for an operating system upgrade that made everything worse. In November 2024, he made the decision: full migration to Ubuntu Linux Enterprise. All 87,000 users. Complete Windows replacement over 3 years. Microsoft's largest enterprise customer loss in company history. When asked why by the Wall Street Journal, he said, "We can't trust Microsoft anymore. They're not building software for users. They're building surveillance infrastructure disguised as productivity tools. We're not going to be complicit in spying on our own employees, and we're not going to pay Microsoft to make our company less productive." That quote went viral. Within 72 hours, Microsoft's stock dropped 6.8%, because if enterprises don't trust Windows, Microsoft doesn't have a business. The Bill Gates reckoning that changes nothing. April 20th, 2025. Microsoft headquarters, Redmond, Washington, executive boardroom, emergency strategy meeting. Bill Gates attends. He's semi-retired, hasn't been involved in day-to-day Windows strategy since 2008, hasn't run Microsoft since 2000, but he still owns 1.3% of Microsoft stock, worth approximately $50 billion. When the company he built is failing, he shows up. The meeting starts with Satya Nadella presenting Q1 2025 results. Revenue up 8%, cloud revenue up 23%, AI integration metrics showing adoption, positive spin on challenging numbers. Gates interrupts. Multiple people in the room later describe the exchange to Bloomberg. Gates's voice is calm, measured, but there's steel underneath. Satya, Windows 11 is the most hated Windows release in history. More than Vista, more than me. We have a 68% dissatisfaction rating. Market share is collapsing. We're losing developers, losing enterprises, losing gamers. The platform is dying. And you're talking about quarterly cloud revenue? The room goes silent. Nobody speaks when Bill Gates uses that tone. He continues, "I spent 25 years building Windows, making it the platform people loved, making it accessible, making it useful. You've spent 4 years destroying it. The hardware requirements, the forced accounts, the ads, the AI features nobody wants. Every decision makes Windows worse. And you're surprised people hate it?" Nadella tries to defend. "The decision serves strategic goals. AI integration is necessary for competing with Google and Apple. Cloud adoption requires Microsoft accounts for seamless experience. Monetization justifies continued platform investment. Hardware requirements ensure security. Every decision has business rationale." Gates cuts him off. "Strategic goals? The strategy is killing the product. Windows is dropping below 65% market share. In 3 years, we might lose majority share. When that happens, developers stop building for Windows first. Hardware manufacturers deprioritize Windows compatibility. Network effects reverse. The platform dies. And when Windows dies, Office dies. Azure loses its enterprise anchor. The entire ecosystem collapses. How do you not understand this?" Prajesh Arora, Microsoft's chief product officer, tries to interject with data. User engagement metrics show Copilot adoption increasing. Microsoft account penetration growing. Cloud storage usage up. Gates snaps back. "Those metrics measure compliance, not satisfaction. You forced people to use Microsoft accounts. Of course, penetration is growing. You integrated Copilot everywhere. Of course, engagement is up. But users hate it. The satisfaction data proves it. You're measuring the wrong things and making decisions based on data that doesn't reflect reality." The meeting devolves, executives defending their strategies, Gates pushing back, Nadella caught in the middle. After 2 hours, nothing is resolved. Gates leaves. According to one attendee, his final words were, "You have 6 months, maybe less. Fix this or watch everything we built disappear." But nothing changes, because the strategic direction is set. The business model is committed. Microsoft believes they're too big to fail. They believe enterprise inertia will save them. They believe users will complain, but ultimately comply because switching is too hard. They're wrong on all counts, and they're about to find out how wrong. The point of no return approaches. May 2025, Windows market share hit 63.8%, down from 73.1% in January 2023. That's a 9.3 percentage point collapse in 28 months. The decline is accelerating. Linux hits 7.9%, up from 3.1%. Mac hits 17.2%, up from 13.6%. Chrome OS hits 5.3%, up from 1.8%. Every competitor growing, Windows shrinking. The trend lines are exponential. IDC projects Windows could hit 58% by end of 2025. Gartner projects 54% by mid-2026. Forrester's worst-case scenario has Windows dropping below 50% by late 2027. Minority platform status within 3 years. But market share numbers don't capture the human dimension, the millions of individual decisions, each user reaching their breaking point, each business evaluating alternatives, each developer building for other platforms first. The collective momentum away from Windows is massive and accelerating, and once it crosses certain thresholds, it becomes irreversible. Stack Overflow's 2025 developer survey drops in May. The results are catastrophic for Microsoft. Windows usage among professional developers, 44.3%, down from 62.1% in 2023. That's a 17.8 percentage point drop in 2 years. Mac usage, 36.7%, up from 28.4%. Linux usage, 31.2%, up from 19.3%. For the first time in history, more developers are using non-Windows platforms than Windows for professional development. The ecosystem is fragmenting. When asked what platforms they're targeting for new application development, only 38.2% listed Windows as primary target, down from 67.9% in 2023. Web applications, 71.4%. Mobile, 58.3%. Cross-platform frameworks, 52.7%. Windows-specific development is dying. Sarah Chen is a senior developer at a SaaS company in San Francisco that makes productivity software. They've been Windows-focused for 15 years. Their entire code base is .NET, WPF, Windows native technologies. 2 years of development investment. In August 2024, they started seeing Windows user base decline for the first time ever, down 3.2% quarter over quarter. Meanwhile, requests for Mac versions increased 47%. Requests for Linux support up 89%. The company held an emergency strategy meeting. The decision was unanimous. Rebuild everything as a web application with Electron-based desktop wrappers for cross-platform support. Stop investing in Windows native development. Focus on browser-based delivery and cross-platform compatibility. She spent the last 7 months leading the migration. 15 years of Windows code being replaced with TypeScript, React, and web technologies. All the WPF UI becoming web components. Every Windows-specific feature being re-implemented as cross-platform. It's painful, expensive, and necessary. When asked why they're making this massive investment to move away from Windows when it's still the majority platform, she said, "Because we can see where this is going. In 2 years, Windows might be 50% of desktop market share or less. If we're locked into Windows technologies, we're locked into a declining platform. We need to be cross-platform now before our competitors eat our lunch. Every month we delay is market share we lose to competitors who already made this transition." That calculation is happening at thousands of software companies right now. Developers abandoning Windows-specific technologies, moving to web-based and cross-platform frameworks, following users to other platforms. Once developers leave, the platform dies. Because without new applications, without continued investment, the platform becomes legacy infrastructure running old software while innovation happens elsewhere. The financial collapse Wall Street is pricing in, May 15, 2025. Goldman Sachs releases a research report titled Microsoft Windows Terminal Decline Accelerating. The report is devastating. They downgrade Microsoft from buy to neutral, with a price target reduction from $498 to $387 per share. The analysis states Microsoft's Windows franchise is entering terminal decline. Enterprise migration to alternative platforms is accelerating beyond our previous models. Consumer adoption of Windows 11 is catastrophically low at 26.1%. The planned subscription model will accelerate exodus rather than generate recurring revenue. We project Windows could represent only 8% of Microsoft's total revenue by 2028, down from 18% currently, and that revenue will be declining year over year rather than growing. Morgan Stanley publishes an even more bearish analysis on May 18th. They project Windows could lose majority desktop market share by Q4 2028, dropping to 48.7%. Their worst-case scenario has Windows at 42.1% market share by 2030. The report states, the Windows platform is experiencing a trust collapse comparable to Facebook's Cambridge Analytica crisis, but with no viable recovery mechanism. Users are leaving and not returning. Enterprise customers completing platform migrations will not migrate back. The switching costs that protected Microsoft's moat for decades have evaporated as alternatives matured. Windows is becoming legacy infrastructure. JP Morgan's May 20th analysis focuses on developer ecosystem collapse. They note that when developers stop targeting a platform as their primary development environment, the platform enters an irreversible death spiral. Applications become outdated. New software doesn't launch on the platform. Users leave to access better software elsewhere. More developers abandon the platform. The cycle accelerates exponentially. They compare it to BlackBerry's collapse from 2011 to 2016. BlackBerry had 43% smartphone market share in 2011. By 2016, less than 1%. The collapse took 5 years once developer momentum shifted. JP Morgan suggests Windows could follow a similar trajectory. Dominant today, irrelevant in 5 years because the fundamental dynamics are identical. Users don't trust the platform. Developers are building for alternatives. Network effects are working in reverse. Microsoft's stock responds to these analyses predictably. Down 11.2% in 3 trading days. $89 billion in market value evaporated. But analysts say this is just the beginning. If Windows revenue collapses, it cascades through Microsoft's entire business. Office revenue depends on Windows. Azure Enterprise adoption depends on Windows integration. Microsoft 365 subscriptions depend on Windows workflows. The entire ecosystem is interconnected. Lose Windows, lose everything. Goldman Sachs projects Microsoft could lose 25% to 35% of total revenue by 2029 if Windows decline continues at current pace. That's $65 billion to $90 billion in annual revenue at risk. Stock could drop to $280 per share, down from current levels around $420. Market cap could decline by $800 billion. The cultural shift that cannot be reversed. But beyond the financial metrics, beyond the market analysis, something more fundamental is happening. A cultural shift in how people perceive Microsoft and Windows. For 30 years, Windows was synonymous with personal computing. If you used a computer, you used Windows. It was the default, the standard, the thing everyone just accepted without questioning. That's over now. Windows has become the thing people actively avoid, mock, and try to escape from. The perception shift is total and irreversible. Reddit communities dedicated to leaving Windows have exploded in size and activity. Our Linux questions went from 340,000 subscribers in January 2024 to 1.2 million in May 2025. Our Linux for Noobs, helping newcomers learn Linux, grew from 231,000 to 987,000. Our Windows Help ironically became primarily focused on helping people block Windows 11 upgrades or downgrade back to Windows 10. YouTube channels dedicated to Windows alternatives are getting massive viewership. Why I switched from Windows to Linux videos routinely get millions of views. Tech influencers who built careers on Windows content are pivoting to Linux and Mac content because that's what their audiences want to watch. The cultural momentum has completely shifted away from Windows. Emma Rodriguez is a 22-year-old computer science student at UC Berkeley. She grew up using Windows. Her first computer was Windows XP. She used Windows 7 through middle school, Windows 10 through high school. When she started college in 2023, she was still using Windows. By spring 2025, she switched to Linux Mint. When asked why, she said, "In my CS classes, using Windows became embarrassing. My classmates mock Windows users. They see it as uncool, outdated, the thing older people use because they don't know better. Using Linux is a status symbol now. It signals you're serious about technology, that you understand how computers actually work, that you care about privacy and freedom. Windows is for normies who don't know any better." That perception shift is devastating for Microsoft because it means they're losing the next generation. When college students studying computer science think Windows is uncool and actively avoid it, those are the future developers, IT administrators, and technology decision makers. Microsoft is losing the people who will make platform choices for the next 30 years. The cultural damage is permanent. The gaming community is experiencing the same shift. PC gaming subreddits are filled with users posting Steam Deck setups, bragging about playing Windows games on Linux with better performance than Windows. The Steam Deck, which runs Arch Linux, sold 17.4 million units in 2024 alone. That's 17.4 million people actively using Linux for gaming and discovering it works great. They're learning Linux isn't this scary, complicated thing. It's actually easier than Windows in many ways. No forced updates interrupting gaming sessions, no Copilot interrupting gameplay with suggestions, no Microsoft account requirements, no ads in the file manager. Games just work, often with better performance than Windows, because there's less bloat, less telemetry, less background surveillance consuming resources. Valve's Proton compatibility layer has made over 10,000 Windows games run perfectly on Linux, often faster than native Windows. The narrative is shifting from Linux is too hard for normal people to Linux is what smart people use. Once that narrative takes hold, it's impossible to reverse. The ending that Microsoft refuses to see. June 2025. The trends are undeniable. Windows 11 adoption, 24.7%, down from 31% in January. Windows 10 usage, 39.1%, up from 35.2%, despite support ending 20 months ago. People are downgrading. Active Windows 10 installations are increasing while Windows 11 decreases. That's unprecedented. Operating systems don't lose users to their predecessors, but Windows 11 is so bad that people are going backwards to escape it. Linux, 8.1%, Mac, 17.7%, Chrome OS, 5.6%. Windows total 63.8%. Every competitor growing, Windows shrinking. The trajectory is clear and accelerating. By December 2025, Windows could be at 59%. By June 2026, below 55%. By 2028, minority platform. But Microsoft isn't changing course. Internal roadmaps show they're committed to their strategy. Copilot integration expanding. Recall coming back as opt-in despite rejection. Subscription tiers for Windows 12 still in development. More AI features. More cloud integration. More data collection. More monetization. Nothing suggests they're listening to users. They're doubling down on everything users hate. Bill Gates sees the parallels to past platform collapses. He watched IBM lose the PC market despite inventing it. He watched Netscape lose browsers despite pioneering them. He watched BlackBerry lose mobile despite dominating it. He watched Nokia, Sun, SGI, and countless other tech giants collapse after years of dominance. The pattern is always the same. Market leader becomes arrogant, stops listening to users, prioritizes short-term revenue over long-term platform health, assumes dominance is permanent, ignores warning signs, dismisses competitors, makes the platform worse while claiming it's better. Users leave, developers leave, network effects reverse. The collapse accelerates exponentially. And suddenly, the dominant platform is dead. Gates built Windows to empower people, to democratize computing, to give everyone access to technology. Windows 95 was a revolution that made computers accessible to normal people. Windows XP was beloved, stable, reliable, trustworthy. Windows 7 was maybe the peak, where everything worked and everyone was happy. That was the Windows he built, a tool, a platform, a foundation for human productivity and creativity. Windows 11 is the opposite. Surveillance masquerading as features, monetization disguised as improvements, control pretending to be security, an operating system that serves Microsoft's business objectives instead of user needs. The most hated Windows release in history, not by accident, by design, by choice, by strategic decisions made by executives who valued quarterly revenue over platform longevity, and now it's dying, not slowly over decades, quickly over years. Windows might have 5 years left as a viable platform, maybe less. By 2030, it could be like OS2, like BOS, like Solaris, remembered as something that once mattered but doesn't anymore. A cautionary tale about how arrogance, greed, and contempt for users can destroy even the most dominant platforms. This is the story Microsoft doesn't want you to know. This is the truth behind the most hated Windows release in history. This is why Windows 11 isn't just bad software. It's the beginning of the end for Windows itself. Share this if you understand what's really happening. Subscribe to watch the collapse continue because Windows isn't dead yet, but it's dying. And Microsoft is killing it faster than anyone imagined possible.